All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going after the absolute holy grail of corporate management, which is figuring out how to bridge that massive gap between grand strategic visions and actual day-to-day operational reality. Look, we all know the story, right? An organization spends months crafting this incredibly brilliant strategy, but the second it comes time to execute it, the whole thing just falls apart. Well, today, we're going to fix that. Here is our quick roadmap for today. We'll start by looking at exactly why perfectly good plans fail. Then we'll uncover the mechanics of the framework that fixes that failure. And finally, we'll talk about how to actually execute it. Let's get to it. Section 1. The strategy execution gap. Let's zoom in on a huge macro problem. Having a high-level strategy is great, but the implementation phase is exactly where most companies trip up. So I really want to kick things off by asking a fundamental question. Why do so many organizations totally fail at the exact moment they need to implement their grand designs? Because honestly, drawing up a strategy is one thing, but making it a reality is a completely different beast. Think about it. Perfectly good plans usually end up just sitting in a binder gathering dust for a few very specific reasons. First off, lack of ownership. I mean, if no one actually owns the plan, nobody acts on it, right? Then there's poor communication, where employees on the ground have absolutely no idea how their daily tasks contribute to the big picture. Meanwhile, managers are getting entirely bogged down in minor operational details. And then there's the truly fatal mistake, measuring only what is easy to measure instead of what is actually important. Moving into Section 2, beyond just financial metrics. Let's look at how, historically, our very methods for measuring success have been causing this execution gap all along. For decades, companies literally operated like drivers who were only staring into the rearview mirror. They used traditional finance just to track the story of past events. But the problem is, standard accounting conventions usually undervalue, or honestly completely ignore, the true drivers of future value. I'm talking about intangible assets, things like employee skills, specialized training, and deep customer relationships. And this exact realization is what led business theorists Dr. Robert Kaplan and Dr. David Norton to basically hit the nail on the head. They realized that traditional accounting just isn't enough to guide modern companies anymore. Those old tools were completely inadequate for the massive shift into the information age. You simply need new tools for a new reality. Which brings us to Section 3. Enter the balanced scorecard as a comprehensive metric. So, introduced back in 1992, the Balanced Scorecard basically acts as an organizational dashboard. It's this powerful strategic management framework used to identify, improve, and control internal operations and their external outcomes. And what it does beautifully is it balances those rigid, backward-looking financial dollar signs with the actual operational drivers of future success. Section 4. The 4 key perspectives. Now we're going to break down the 4 pillars that actually make up this entire framework. To really grasp the mechanics here, you have to look at its 4 distinct pillars, or think of them as the 4 legs of a table. You absolutely must check the financial, customer, internal process, and learning and growth perspectives to get a truly holistic view of your business. If you ignore even one of these legs, the whole structure just becomes completely unstable. Let's rapidly cycle through the 4 core questions these pillars force you to ask. Number 1, financial. How do we look to our shareholders? Number 2, customer. How do our customers actually see us when it comes to satisfaction and accessibility? Number 3, internal process. What must our manufacturing and operations absolutely excel at to meet those customer needs? And finally, number 4, learning and growth. Can we continue to improve through employee training and corporate culture? By evaluating all 4 of these together, companies finally stop treating employee knowledge and customer retention as short-term expenses, and they start valuing them as crucial future assets. It literally forces you out of a purely financial mindset and into a holistic, operational one. Okay, Section 5. Implementing strategy into action. Let's zoom back out from the scorecard itself and talk about how we actually apply this in reality. Real strategy implementation means you are actively aligning your external environment, so things like the broader economy or your competition, with your internal structures, meaning your culture, your physical assets, and your human resources. Because if your people and your internal structures aren't totally aligned with your overall vision, the strategy is going to fail every single time. So to bridge that gap, leadership has to take that sweeping high-level vision and convert it into measurable strategic goals. These are your quantifiable yardsticks. But then, and this is key, you have to take it one step further into tactical planning. That means creating short-term functional operating plans that detail exactly how you're going to execute that strategy on, say, a random Tuesday afternoon within very specific departments. In practice, this requires incredibly strict mapping. Think about how a broad objective from the learning and growth perspective, like, let's say, having a skilled sales force, gets translated directly into a specific tactical goal, like training 100% of the team. You would even list the exact indicator you're going to measure and the specific initiative, like developing a partnership for online courses, to actually make it happen. And for anyone who has ever sat at their desk wondering how their highly specific job links to the big overarching objectives of the organization, well, this framework provides those exact guidelines. It ensures you aren't just tunnel visioned on the money. Instead, you're actively mixing financial targets with strategic operational moves, like maybe overtaking key competitors on product performance or broadening your entire technological capability. To put this into perspective with some real-world corporate reality, nearly 50% of global companies use this exact approach. Take a massive enterprise like Walgreens, for example. They effectively use this methodology to seamlessly balance some seriously staggering financial targets, like increasing their revenues to over $130 billion, with strategic operational objectives, like generating $1 billion in cost savings just from combined purchasing synergies. Ultimately, when it's fully deployed, this methodology ensures your strategic plan doesn't just sit on a shelf as some theoretical academic exercise. By balancing your financial goals with internal operations, customer satisfaction, and learning, it literally becomes the nerve center of your entire enterprise. I'm going to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought to reflect on for your own organization. When it comes to your strategic implementation right now, are you simply measuring what's easy by staring in the rearview mirror? Or are you actively tracking the internal processes, the learning, and the relationships that will actually drive your future value? Start focusing on what truly matters, and you'll watch your strategic plan finally become a reality.